Like we have Bava Metzia. We're starting. You want to start in the back? So Daled, 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 Daled. You want to have Daled, Daled, hey. Okay.
Oh wait, hang on. Yeah, no, it is Daled. It is Daled.
No. Excuse me 1 second, John. John, both the buyer and the seller are governed by the law of fraud. Just as the law of fraud applies to a layman, so does the law of fraud apply to a merchant. Rabbi Yehuda says the law of fraud does not apply to a merchant. The one who has been imposed upon has the upper hand. If he wishes, he may say to him, give me my money, or give me what you defrauded me. How much may a seller be defective? And yet there should still be no infraction of the law of fraud. Reb Meir says 4 isurim and issue to a dinner, and Rabbi Yehuda says 4 panyos, a punyon to a dinner. Reb Shimon says 8 panyos and 2 panyos to a dinner, and to a dinner. Until when may one return in big cities? Until they can show to a money changer in villages until the eve of the Shabbos. If he recognizes it, however, he should accept it from him even after 12 months. But if he has only resentment against him, he may give it for the second tithe. He may not fear it is only.
There was a period in the middle of that sentence, and all he has is resentment. The only thing that he's got a right to be is he can be upset, but he can't take his upset to court.
All right.
That's what he said.
Right. Okay.
And he can give it, and he can use this lesser coin, this worn away coin, for Maaseh Sheni.
Okay. All right. Okay. So he may give it to the second tithe, and he may not fear, for it is only out of evil disposition that one refuses this coin.
Right, because as we've learned a few times before, their coinage was not as resilient as ours, and it would wear away, and people would say, "I don't want to take that coin." Which they're entitled to do if it's been worn away by these shiurim over here, but really it's still got the same face value. So really, it's as they call it, a nefesh ra'ah. It's just small-mindedness that somebody would refuse to take such a coin.
By the way, this tour guide that we had it does tours of museums, and we're going on November 28th to the Israeli Museum to look at all the coinage and the money and how it changed.
Oh, that would be interesting.
He said,
very interesting.
He said, if you want to go, I'll send it to you. I don't know if they'll let you go, but anyway. Excuse me. It's a coin. For example, so like the 10 coin that we have now used to be the 10,000 bill, and they change things around. The faces are different. Wow. So it should be an interesting tour.
Okay.
This is yours now.
So now Mishna Zion is taking a bit of a tangent over here, because we were mentioning we've been talking about about what they call it fraud, but it's overcharging. Ona is 4 kesef, right? It's four silver pieces per seller. In other words, a sixth. Okay. Taina shtei kesef. And a taina means that you have to have a claim. Based in is not going to be mechayev. So taina shtei kesef ahodash shava pruta is talking about the din of a mori b'miktas, or somebody who admits to part of a debt. Okay, it's when the claim is two silver pieces and he admits to a shava pruta. And now, having mentioned the pruta, the Mishnah now lists 5 places where a pruta comes into play. And before we even look at them, don't even look down. Tell me all the cases you can think of where the shear is a pruta.
I can't. I'm sorry.
What we just learned in Kiddushin, for example. A woman is you can be mekadesh a woman with a shava pruta.
Right.
Where else is a pruta significant? A small amount.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. So
sorry.
Hahoda. So here are the 5 cases. Hahoda shava pruta. So that's what we just mentioned. The person who is mordeh b'miktsas. If you admits to at least a pruta. Ha'isha miskadeshes b'shava pruta. So a woman can be married with a shava pruta. Hanene b'shava pruta min a hekdesh. So if he enjoys the value of a pruta from hekdesh, then he's committed me'ilah and he has to bring a korban me'ilas. Okay. Hamotze shava pruta. if somebody finds a Metzia that's worth a Shava Pruta and is chayav lahachriz, if it's less than a Shava Pruta, he can just ignore it or keep it or whatever. It's just there's no need to announce it. Hagozer is chaver Shava Pruta v'nishbalo, and it's also if somebody stole the equivalent of a pruta from his friend and swore that he didn't have it. That's where we said that now he wants to do teshuva, he has to return that amount of money to him, even if he has to follow him personally to Fiji.
Okay, I'm circling this because I have to go over this again. I'm circling this right over here. Okay, good.
Okay. Well, there's another case here. Well, what about chomesh? We've used the term chomesh where you have to add the value of a chomesh onto something. Can you think of any of the places where we've added a chomesh?
It has to do with the animals, with the maybe they can put a blemish on or something, or there's something.
No, it's not a chomesh. It's a monetary thing. When you add on a chomesh onto the value of something, and you have to pay it back, or
if it does damage, if the animal does damage.
No, that's not it. Adding a chomesh is usually involved in kodshim, or in when there's, for example, well, let's go through them all. Ochel truma. If somebody eats truma by mistake,
right.
or trumas maase shel demai, v'chala v'habikurim. So any of these Kodesh foods that are supposed to be eaten only by a kohen, and the non-kohen eats them, mosif chomesh, then he has to pay them back plus a chomesh. Okay, so that's one. And when somebody does a redemption on fourth year produce or on Maaseh Sheni, then he has to add a fifth. Okay. If somebody was makdish something and now he wants to redeem it back again, mosif chomesh, he adds on the fifth. And then if somebody did me'ilah, okay, mosif chomesh, then when he pays it back, he has to give back an extra chomesh. And if somebody steals something from his friend and he swears that he doesn't have it, when it comes time for him to pay back, mosif chomesh, then he has to add on an extra chomesh. Okay. Now we're returning to the subject of overcharging. There's some things that there's no din of overcharging on them. Okay. Slaves and deeds, well, let's say debts, purchasing debts, right? People will purchase debts for less than the face value of the debt on the paper, because of course there's the trouble of collecting the debt. The karkaos and also landed property, and hekdeshos, and anything that belongs to the temple. There's no din of onah, because for the temple it's only because of onah is because ish is chavero, okay, and it's not and from hekdesh it's from the property, it's not chavero, so there's no din of onah, okay. And furthermore, all of these things, if a person just to dive back into those things, slaves, it's difficult to say there's a value on a market value on a particular slave, and that you've overcharged for a slave. It's because a person is a person, and each person varies. Each person has their own attributes, so you can never say that this person's value really is whatever. You can say that leeks are 10 shekels a kilogram, because that's the market price. But this slave, there's no market price for this particular slave. And also shtar, each shtar has got its own value, and its own personal circumstances. And lands also, each land, it's very difficult to give a market price for lands. Okay. And furthermore, if somebody stole one of these things and was caught in possession, normally when you steal foproperty, there's a kafel, there's a double payment that's a penalty of the courts. But these four things, there's no kafel. Lo tashlim arba v'chamisha. And also for animals, remember that applies to stealing an ox or a sheep. There's an extra punishment of 4 or 5 if he slaughtered or sold them. So this obviously is talking about hekdesh. because you don't have slaves or shtaros or whatever. So this is talking about an animal of hekdesh that was stolen and slaughtered. There's no tashlum arba chamisha. Shomer chinam eno nishpa. Furthermore, if there was a shomer chinam looking after these things, and the item was stolen from him, anything other than negligence, he has to swear that he wasn't negligent in his shmirah, but for these things he doesn't have to swear. Nose sachar eno meshalim. And furthermore, if a shomer sachar is looking after them, even if they're stolen or lost, normally by a shomer sachar he would have to pay for something that was stolen or lost. He doesn't have to. He only has to pay if it's metaltalin, but not if it's hekdesh. Why is this kiten ish el re'ehu, which excludes again hekdesh, because all these drushes on re'ehu, on chavero, or ish esachiv, or whatever, and hekdesh is a different category altogether. Rabbi Shimon Omer, he says no. When you've got kodshim that a person said hare alai, right? So he's taken he's designated something to fulfill a hare alai. So now it is his loss. It is his loss if somebody steals his cow. That's he's going to have to replace it. So if there's a harayos, then it says yes, there is onah, because the owner is going to have to take a loss. So it does actually come down to a personal thing, and you don't have that deal of the pasuk that says, oh no, it only belongs to hekdesh. It belongs to hekdesh, but it also belongs to him because he's going to take a loss from it, says Rabbi Shimon. But if it's just a regular thing where he said harezu, because that's the case of hekdesh that we're all talking about. But the halacha doesn't follow Rabbi Shimon. Even for a hare alai, the halacha is that there's no onah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Sefer Torah, even if somebody sells a Sefer Torah, behema or margalis, or behema or margalis, an animal or pearls, there's no onah, right? So the Gemara explains in the Brisa the reason why a Sefer Torah is because the Sefer Torah is priceless. And so you can't say there's been an overcharging for a Sefer Torah. Behema margalis, because a person wants to pair them up. If somebody's got a nice ox for plowing, then he'll look for another one another good one that will plow strongly with it. But if he has a weak ox, he doesn't want to buy a strong ox, because that's going to mess up the weak ox when they're trying to plow together. He wants to match up the strength. So he would actually rather pay extra for a weaker ox to join his existing weak ox. And so you can't. And so therefore says Rabbi Yehuda, there's no overcharging for the behemoths. And similarly for pearls, he says he wants to match up the pearls with the ones that he's already got in his possession. He doesn't want to take large ones and match them with small ones, because that'll look silly.
Right.
Okay, so says Rabbi Yehuda, there's no honor on these things either. Amru lo amru eles elu, and Chachamim rejoined to Rabbi Yehuda is, I'm sorry, that is the Masorah that we have. It does not exclude behema and margalis or Sefer Torah, and the halacha follows the Chachamim. Okay, let's do Chazara.
That a pearl comes into that. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that out of the blue. A pearl, it could have been anything. Why a pearl? I don't know.
He's making jewelry. Why that particular thing?
That's unusual. Okay, we have Bava Kama on
well, actually, still in Bava Metzia, base Vav.
Oh, you're right. Forgot about it. We have base Vav. Until when is he required to announce? Until there is time for his neighbors to know of it. These are the words of Reb Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says 3 festivals and 7 days after the last festival, so that he may have 3 days to go home, 3 days to return, and 1 day to announce. If he mentioned the lost article but did not mention its distinguishing features, he should not give it to him. As for a deceiver, although he mentions its distinguishing features, he should not give it to him, as it is said, until your brother seeks it, which is interpreted as meaning until you test your brother and to determine whether he is a deceiver or whether he is not a deceiver. Anything that works and eats shall work and eat. Anything that does not work but eat shall be sold. And the pasuk says, and you shall return it to him, which is interpreted as meaning, see how you shall return it to him. What shall be worth with it? What shall be worth with the money? Reb Tarfon says he may use it, therefore, if it is lost, he is responsible for it. Reb Akiva says he may not use it, and therefore, if it is lost, he is not responsible for it. If he found scrolls, he may read them once in 30 days. If he does not know how to read, he should roll them. However, he should not study in them for the first time, nor should he read another with him. Nor should another read with him. If he found a garment, he should shake it out once in 30 days and spread it out for the benefit, but not for his honor. As for silverware and copperware, he should use them for their benefit, but not to wear them out. As for gold utensils and glassware, he may not touch them until Eliyahu comes. If he found a sack or basket with anything that is not accustomed to taking, he shall not take it. What is considered a lost article?
That's it. Yeah. Okay, now we can go Baba Kama.
Okay, Aleph Gimel. The evaluation is in money, and the payment is made with money's worth in the presence of a court and by the testimony of witnesses who are freemen and Jews. Women are governed by the law of damages. The damagee and the damager are included in the payment. There are 5 that are tamen and 5 that are muadin. An animal is not muad, neither to gore, nor to push, nor to bite, nor to lie down, nor to kick. Shane is muad to eat what is fit for it. A regal is muad to break as it walks, and a muad bull, the bull that damages while on the premises of the damagee and man. The wolf, the lion, the bear, the leopard, the bardalas, and the snake are muadin. Reb Eliezer says when they are domesticated, they are not muadim, but the snake is always muad. What is the difference between a tam and a muad? Only that the owner of the tam pays half the damages from its body, and the owner of the muad pays the full damages from the best of the property. And one more. In what way is regal considered muad? To break it as it walks. The animal is muad to walk in its usual manner and break. If it was kicking or its pebbles were flying from under its feet and it broke vessels, he pays half the damages. If he stepped on a vessel and broke it, if he fell on a vessel and broke it, for the first one he pays the full damages. For the second time he pays half the damages. Fowl are considered muad to walk in their usual manner and break. And if a thread was tied to its feet or it was jumping and it broke vessels, he pays half the damages.
Okay. So next up is Nadarim.
We have Yud Base. If the father dies, the sole right does not fall to the husband. If the husband dies, the sole right falls to the father. In this matter, the power of the father surpasses that of the husband. In another matter, the power of the husband surpasses that of the father. For a husband can revoke his wife's nedarim even after she has been a bogeres, while the father cannot revoke her nedarim once she has become a bogeres. If she vowed while she was betrothed and was divorced on the same day and betrothed again the same day, even to 100 men, her father and her current husband revoke her nedarim. This is the general rule. As long as she had never entered into a state of independence for even 1 hour, her father and her current husband revoke her nedarim. It was the custom of scholars that as long as one's daughter had not left him, he would say to her, all nedarim which you have made in my home are revoked. And so too the husband, before she would come under his authority, would say to her, all nedarim which you have made prior to my coming under my authority are revoked, but once she comes under his authority, he cannot revoke them.
Okay. Yes.
Vav Dalet. A chagiga may be brought from the flock, from cattle, from sheep, or from goats, from males or from females, and it may be eaten for 2 days and 1 night. If one slaughtered the Pesach offering for some other designation on the Sabbath, he is liable thereby for a sin offering. And all other sacrifices that he is slaughtered with the designation of a Pesach offering, if they are not suitable, he is liable for a sin offering. But if they are suitable, Reb Eliezer obligates him to bring a sin offering, but Reb Yehuda absolves him.
Rabbi Yeshua. Yeah.
Sure, resolves him. Said Reb Eliezer, if the Pesach which is permitted on the Sabbath for its own designation, if he changes designation, he is liable. Then other sacrifices which are forbidden on the Sabbath, even for their own designations, if he changed their designations, he should surely be liable. Rabbi Yeshua said to him, "Not so. If you say thus of the man's of this Pesach when he changed it to a forbidden matter, will you say that of other sacrifices when he changed them to a permitted matter?" Said Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer to him, "Let public offerings prove it, for they are permitted to be offered to their own designations. Yet one who slaughters other sacrifices with their own designations is liable." Said Rabbi Yeshua to him, "Not so. Even if you say thus of public offerings, which have a limit, will you say thus of the Pesach, which has no limit?" Rameya says, "Even one who slaughters other sacrifices for the designation of public offerings is not liable. If one slaughters it for his own, if one slaughtered it for those who cannot eat of it, or for those who not registered on it, for uncircumcised or contaminated people, he is liable. However, if he slaughtered for those who can eat of it and those who cannot eat of it, for those who registered and for those who not registered, for circumcised and uncircumcised, for those who are cleansed and those who are not contaminated, he's not liable. If one slaughtered and was found to have a blemish, he's liable. If one slaughtered and it was found to be a treifa internally, he is not liable. If one slaughtered and it then became known that the owners had withdrawn from it, or had died, or had become contaminated, he is not liable because he slaughtered with permission.
Okay. Sharon.
Sharon. Okay, Aleph Gimel. If one shook a tree and fruit fell onto another tree, or one shook a branch and fruit fell onto another branch, and under them were seeds or vegetables that were attached to the ground, Beis Shammai says it is included in the law of if water is placed. Beis Hillel says if it is not included in the law of if water is placed. Rabbi Yeshua said in the name of Abba Yosef ben Khalif Kufri, a leader of Tivon, you should wonder yourself if there is liquid that generates a susceptibility to Tuma in the Torah, unless he places it with intent, for as is stated, but if water had been placed on a seed. So, if one shook a bundle of vegetables and the water fell from the upper part of the bundle to the lower part, Beis Shammai says is it included in the law if water is placed. Beis Hillel says it is not included in the law if water is placed. Beis Hillel says Beis Shammai, but if one shook a vegetable stalk, should we not be concerned that the water went from one leaf to another leaf? And Beis Shammai said to him, because the stalk is one item, but a bundle comprises many stalks. Beis Hillel said to them, if one brought up a sack full of fruits and placed them on the banks of the river, should we be concerned that the water descended from the top of the sack to the bottom? But if he brought up two sacks and placed them on top of one another, the bottom one is included in the law of water is placed. Rabbi Yoshi says the bottom sack is also tahor. If one pressed on a leaf or squeezed water from his hair with his garment, Rabbi Yossi says what emerges is included in the law of if water is placed. What remains is not included in the law of if water is placed, because he intends that all of it should emerge.
Okay.
And we have chorus. All animals born from the 1st of Tishrei until the 29th of Elul combine for Misa. 5 that were born before Rosh Hashanah and 5 that were born after Rosh Hashanah do not combine. 5 before the designated day and 5 after the designated day do combine. If so, with regard to what is it stated, there are 3 designated dates for the Misa of animals, that until the designated day arrives, one may sell or slaughter, but once the designated arrives, he may no longer slaughter. However, if he did slaughter, he's exempt. How does one separate Misa from them? He gathers them into a pen and makes a small opening for them so that the 2 cannot exit at once. He then counts with a rod, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the animal which exits 10th, he marks with a red dye and pronounces this one is Misa. If he did not mark it with red dye, or if he did not count them with a rod, or if he counted them when they were crouching or standing, they are nevertheless counted for Misa. If he owned 100 and took 10, he owned 10 and took 1, which is not, it is not Misa. Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, says this is Misa if one of the counted jump back into their midst. They are exempt. If one of the animals designated as Misa jumped into their midst, they must all be left to pasture until they develop blemishes and may be eaten in the blemished state by their owners. If two animals exited together, he counted them 2 by 2. If he counted them as one, the 9th and 10th are ruined. If the 9th and 10th exited together, the 9th and 10th are ruined. If he called the 9th animal 10th and the 10th 9th and the 11th 1/10, and all 3 of them are consecutive, are consecrated. The 9th may be eaten in the blemished state, and the 10th is Misa. The 11th is brought as a shlomin offering, and it may produce a tamara. These are the words of Rav Meir. Said Rav Yehuda, can a tamara produce a tamara? They said in the name of Rav Meir, if it was a tamara, it would not be offered. If you call the 9th 1/10, the 10th 1/10, and the 11th 1/10, the 11th is not consecrated, and this is the rule. As long as the designation 10th has not been uprooted from it, the 11th one is not consecrated.
And tomorrow is Arachin. Okay, I gotta run.
Well, all right. Have a good day. Enjoy. Bye.
Great day, and vote early, vote often.
Yes.